Here are 15 of the very best tips to start a construction business. Listen, nobody teaches you this stuff. You can't go to school, you can't go to construction management school. So in this video, I'm literally giving you my tried and true methods, the ones that I'm using every single week, every single day with my clients to grow million-dollar companies, subcontractors, general contractors. Basically, anybody in construction can apply these principles and almost overnight see multi-million-dollar success. Look at Matt Hensley. He's a client of mine. He sold $20 million in contracts. Look at Leo Guzman. He sold over $2 million in his first year of work. Look at Richard from R&R Construction. In their second month with us on our leads and estimating program, they just closed 2 projects back to back. They're almost over $600,000 in contracted work. Isn't that crazy? And my newest project, Jose Palma from In-Source Construction. He actually is a computer programmer. Yes, you heard it right, computer programmer. And he decided that he wanted to start a construction business. So we're specializing framing and drywall and interiors packages. And he's literally using all my tactics and strategies to get projects. And in a month and a half of bidding, he's about to secure his first 2 construction projects, totaling about $300,000 of work. So he's literally going to land $50,000 of profit as a computer programmer with 0 construction knowledge. I only mention this because I really want you to see the power of all these strategies, that if you literally take everything I'm telling you and you run with it, you're going to have success like Matt, like Richard, like Jose. You're going to see that. And I really encourage you to watch all 15 because the number one, the last one, I'm going to go backwards from 15 to 1. And the last one, the number 1 is by far the most powerful thing you can do in your business. So let's go. So number 15, focus on revenue producing activities. So what is a revenue producing activity? So essentially, a revenue producing activity is an activity that produces revenues. In other words, revenue is sales, money coming in the door. So anything that doesn't contribute to money coming in the door, those are the things that you should be thinking about outsourcing or hiring employees to do. Things like supervising the jobs, estimating these projects. These are things that you can actually outsource or hire people to do that. The biggest mistake that most contractors make, especially when starting out, I could just do this myself. Why am I going to spend time training somebody that they're not even going to do it as good as me? The truth is that if you want to grow, you have to scale. And the only way you can scale is by multiplying yourself. So you got to start training other people and or hiring companies or people that already know how to do it for you. All right, number 14, keep your overhead low. So I want you to think like when you're starting out, you don't want to have a big overhead. And I talk to a lot of companies that often they're like, oh, I have crews, or, I got to hire people and I don't have the money to hire people. And my answer to you is don't hire people. Use 1099s, use subcontractors, and use pieceworkers. Listen, before I Am Builders, I was part of a commercial drywall company that when I started there, they were like this little small mom and pop shop. They were very small company and they were doing labor. Primarily their revenue was coming from labor from bigger drywall companies. So when I started there, they had started getting their first GC jobs, like their own clients, their own GCs. How do we grow the business? So we already had the guys that we were giving for labor, but we started adding on piece workers. And piece workers, in other words, are subcontractors. So we were the sub, so they were our subs. So essentially they were subs. So we would do things on a per project basis. And this is powerful because you can easily scale your business without taking a bunch of overhead. And the worst thing, the enemy to new companies is overhead. So my professional recommendation is keep your overhead low. And if you're a GC, you can actually have a $100 million a year company using all subcontractors. You never ever have to hire a big crew of in-house guys. So let me tell you something. If you're just starting out and you're relatively new, don't get that burden. Just use subcontractors and you can grow a huge company without needing in-house people. Now, there may be a time that you want to bring in some full-time employees into your organization that you can rely and trust on, that you can send to different job sites, but that's after you're established and that's after you have a lot going on and it's not going to be a burden to you because money's coming in the door. Number 13, figure out how to output more bids. The biggest issue in construction, it's not skilled labor, it's not capital, it's estimating. I started I Am Builders because I started estimating for a painting contractor, and then I got another painting contractor, and then I started promoting and seeing like, hey, who else might need some estimating? Like maybe I could find a few companies that might need our help. It was like an avalanche, and I'm like, oh my gosh, like this is our industry's pandemic. We all got out of COVID, so we understand what a pandemic is. Most construction companies, they want to grow their business, but it's almost impossible because it's like the wall that's stopping you from growing your business, and it shouldn't be like that. So how can you output more bids? So the way I see it is you have 3 options. Option number 1 is you can do it yourself, and that's what you've been doing. Number 2 is you can hire an employee estimator, right? You can go find someone with experience. Typically those guys, and I know this because I've hired them, they cost between $100,000 to $120,000 a year, plus benefits, vacation, medical, and a bunch of other stuff. And it's a very high overhead, especially if you're a smaller company. It's impossible. Like you'll have to bid more jobs to win them just to pay that salary. Or option number 3 is you can hire a professional and qualified estimating firm. Hint, hint. So one of the key things that I say is qualified, because there's a lot of companies out there that they claim to be estimators. They might even be overseas and they don't have actual US based experience. So you got to vet them. But an estimating firm is very powerful because you can quickly scale and output more bids by the clicks of a button. So like when we do our estimating, our clients send us the plans, we review them, we quote them, or some of our clients are on an estimating subscription. So like they just send us the plans and literally with a click of a button, they engage us, they get us started, and boom, in a few days, we send them their estimate. Think about this. At the end of the day, an estimate, all it is an appraisal for what the cost of construction is, the labor and material, right? Now, obviously every company is different. There's different overheads, there's different supervisions and project managements and things like that, different general conditions cost. So if you are a smart businessman, which obviously you are if you're watching this video, you would engage an estimating firm to scale up your business, because literally you can do this overnight. You could be submitting, right now you're doing 2 or 3 a month, you could be submitting 2 or 3 a day. And that's really how you're gonna see your company grow. And the best part is, after a certain amount of time that the money's coming in, you can reinvest and just bid more jobs. Just to give you an idea, we were doing $7 million a year bidding between 30 and 60 jobs a month. 30 to 60 jobs for some people is a lot, but we didn't start there. We started with 10 and then 15 and then 20, and we just kept scaling up. All right, number 12, use the break-even strategy to break in with new clients. So what happens is everything that we do in business, especially in construction, we have to focus on developing repeat business, all right? And if it doesn't lead to repeat business, we shouldn't waste our time. So what we wanna do is we wanna break in with these new clients, we wanna establish ourselves, and we wanna let them know, it's almost like giving them a trial before working with us. We wanna let them know that we know how to do the work and that we're reliable and we're trustworthy. And what happens is in construction, people are gonna hire you based on your price, your reputation, or your relationships. If you're just starting out, you probably don't have a lot of contacts that already know you. So you're kind of starting from like zero. So all these companies, they don't know you. You can say I've been in business for 20 years. Well, you haven't been in business because if you're watching this video, it's because you're starting a construction company. But you might be saying, you know what? I've been in the industry for 10 years. I know what I'm doing. But guess what? They don't know you. They don't know anything about you. You could be a fraud. You could be the best. It doesn't matter. They don't know you. What you want to do is you want to think about giving them a trial, okay? Because the real money is not in the bids. The real money is getting enough bids so you can get noticed, pushing yourself into the negotiating table so that you can start landing some contracts. Then you start getting to know your project managers. And what happens is that once you get behind enemy lines, you need the break-even strategy to get behind enemy lines. And I'll talk about getting behind enemy lines in a second. But basically what you need is you need this break-even method to get your foot in the door so you can start getting to know these guys. And that's how you're gonna lead to repeat business. So what is the break-even method? Essentially, what you're gonna do is, since you know that they're gonna go based on your price heavily, so what you wanna do is you wanna make your price in the beginning, again, this is temporary. In the beginning, you have to make it extremely low. So how do you do it? You gotta bid break even. So what does break even mean? You calculate all of your labor and material costs, right? You can put a small, tiny cushion if you want to feel comfortable. Labor and material, you figure the lowest supervision you could possibly do. Maybe you're supervising your own job, so your salary could come out of the profit and you have zero supervision if you want. And at the end, you wanna put a 0% company profit margin. All right, so make sure your salary is covered, all of your foreman, superintendent, everybody's in their labor materials, all of your overhead, but where in the line item for profit, you want to put 0%. 0% because, or you can put like a small, like 2 or 3 or 5%, something very small. Essentially what you want to do is you want to make it impossible for your competitor to compete against you, because everybody's thinking like about this job. I got to win this job. And they're not thinking of the long term. The long term is I'm going to break in, build a relationship with these guys, and then I'm going to get repeat business after. And once they know what they're buying, they're going to be cool with paying you more money because they know your value. But right now, they don't know your value, so we got to start somewhere. Let's hack the system, get your bid in so that you can win those contracts and you can take it to the next level. Number 11, focus on local companies instead of out-of-towners. Unless, here's the exception, unless they are awarded. That's the only time you should work with an out-of-town company. Here's where I want to focus on. You want to build the foundation of your business based on building a system of repeat business. That's what you want. You want to build yourself a business where you're getting repeat clients sending you work over and over and over. That's how you build a solid foundation for your new company. So if they're out of town, they're probably bidding in your city, in California, in New York, in New Jersey, in Texas, all over the country. There's all these national GCs and subcontractors and architecture firms that are all over the country. So that's good in the sense of where it's good for them because they have a lot of volume of work, but it's not good for you because if they only come to your area twice a year, why are you going to invest in a company that is not going to lead to another job next week and another job the next month? Why? When you can do the same work, focus on a local company that's going to give you work over and over and over. Number 10, use the master list prospecting method to identify hidden gems in your phone and email. All right, so I talk a lot about building this master list. So I have a client of mine named Matt Hensley. He's out of Arizona. He does home developments. He's a plumbing contractor, and he started working with us in October of 2022. So he joined our 8-Figure Contractor Academy, where we teach everything A to Z, from leads to structuring your company to negotiating, estimating to construction management. We teach everything on how to take your business to 8 figures. So he joined that program in October of 2022. And in one of our consulting calls, I tell him, hey, look, build your master list. And in the next 12 months, he lined up his next 3 years of contracts. So literally in a 12-month period, he sold $20 million in contracted work that he's going to be performing over those next 3 years. And it sounds kind of unbelievable, but I actually have a video where I interviewed him, and at the time he was at $10 million. I'm going to put a link up here somewhere so you can see it. But how did he do it? So step 1 is make a list of all the contacts in your phone, and what you're going to do is you're going to use an app from the App Store. And you can actually export all of your contacts in a CSV. And what you're going to do is you're inside of your list, inside of your phone list, you're going to have a bunch of contacts from people in the construction industry. So if you've been in construction for more than a few years, you probably have a Rolodex. You probably have hundreds of phone numbers of superintendents, project managers, architects, project engineers, all these people that you've worked with over the years, that you've built up this list, and all these people can lead you to a project. Now, they themselves might not be a decision maker, but they could lead you to the decision maker. So for example, if I worked with a superintendent 3 years on a project, I can call him up, I grab my phone and I'm like, hey John, this is Daniel from I Am Builders. How's it going? How's everything? How have you been? Haven't talked to you in a few years. Man, how's business? How's work? Are you doing anything new? What are you up to these days? Yeah, you know. And then again, the small talk. Small talk wins jobs. And then you say, by the way, the reason I'm calling is because I'm expanding my business. And I remember we worked together on this job 3 years ago, and it was, we did pretty good. So I wanted to talk to you about how can we get involved working with you or with your company again. Oh, actually, the right person to talk to is Michael. Michael is my project manager, or Michael is the project executive. Why don't you talk to him? Great. What's Michael's number? And then boom. Hey, Michael, I was talking to John. John said you were the best person to talk to. We want to start working with you guys. Boom. And that's how you do it. That's how you get your foot in the door using this method. Step 2 is you want to do the same thing on your email. So you can probably hire a VA, or there might be a techie way to do it, but you want to extract all phone numbers and emails. More importantly is phone numbers, because you want to do this over the phone. You don't want to do this through email. Step 3 is the script I just gave you. All right, step 4 is this is the beginning of your master list, and this is going to be your prospecting list that you're going to work forever. By forever, I mean until you decide to retire, and then you're going to hand off that list to whoever buys your company or to your kids. What happens is the first list is your master hot list, right? These are the people that are like the people you've worked with in the past. Then what you're going to do is when you start doing all this prospecting and networking and visiting people, you're just going to keep adding to this list. And this list over the years should be hundreds and hundreds and maybe even thousands long. And then all you have to do is work your list. So if you look up any sales training, this is like sales 101, you just work your list. Call the first guy, call the next guy, call the next guy. One time when I was in commercial drywall, I went to our CRM. This is actually how I figured this stuff out. I went to our CRM and I went down the list and I started calling everybody. And I was literally like, hey, do you have a project? Do you have a project? Do you have a project? It was literally like unscripted like that. I usually talk to, most of the time it was like a secretary or an office manager. And they were like, oh, I'll forward your information to our project management team. And then they would always tell me that. Nothing really came out of a lot of them. But I did run into a company that the guy calls me the next day, hey, this is JC. I'm desperate for a drywall contractor. We started our demo. This is a cost plus contract. We're already underway and I need a drywall guy ASAP. I went to the job site, I walked it, I did the estimate, and within a 2-week period, I landed our company a $450,000 contract. And being on that job for more than a year, we compiled a bunch of more change orders, which that contract ended up becoming like almost $700,000 by the end, because it was an old hotel that we had to renovate. So the point is that the master list is the quickest thing you can do to get jobs right now. Number 9, visit and introduce yourself to your prospects. Don't treat it like a transaction. Listen, everybody cries because you have to be the low bidder to win the job, right? And that's not true. It couldn't be farther from the truth. I used to win jobs where clients would call me and they'd say, hey, Daniel, you and your team are the high bidder, but we decided to use you. Just give me a break on the price a little bit. And I would negotiate something. And we were usually the highest bidder or one of the higher bidders, and we would always win the job. And it's because we had a reputation with them. They understood our quality, so they were willing to pay for it. But in the beginning, they're not going to know you. And if you're watching this, it's because you're probably starting your construction company or you're in the early stages, and you're not going to have a relationship with companies in order to be able to charge premium rates. So what happens is everybody complains like, you got to be the low bidder, right? But the reason is because they're treating it like a transaction. So if all you do is send an email with a PDF attached and maybe make a few, 1 or 2 phone calls of follow-up, then number 1, don't get mad when they shop your number. And number 2, don't get mad when they treat you like a transaction, because you did it first. If you're just calling and sending emails, that's a transactional relationship. If you're visiting and you're passing by their office and you're shaking hands and you're looking people eye to eye and you're building relationships with them, that's how you're going to get those $100,000 contracts. That's how you're going to get those $1 million contracts, because you're literally asking people to give you hundreds of thousands of dollar contracts without even knowing them, without even visiting them. Like, think about that. Number 8, bid for packages. All right, so this here is one of the ninja strategies that I use every single day to 5x my clients' contract values. So sometimes they come to me and they're like, oh, I'm just doing framing and drywall. I'm like, what about if we do framing, drywall, paint, insulation? What if we do flooring? What if we do an interiors package? And it's very easy to build up a team that can do an interiors package, especially if you're doing what I recommended earlier, using subcontractors. If you are doing framing and drywall, there's value, and a lot of GCs will hire you strictly because you're giving them a package. It's easier to give you the package than having to subcontract a bunch of other trades. So how do you do it? So if you're a sub, you're gonna bid for at least 5 trades. 3 to 5 trades is the number. If you're a GC, you're gonna bid as a sub, but you're gonna manage the project like a GC. In other words, you're gonna become a super sub. Number 7, offer free value upfront using the budget method. So a colleague of mine, he's now a general contractor. Him and I used to work at the same company many years ago, and he's doing something that I call the budget method, super successfully. So he's going to architecture firms, he's walking in the door, he's introducing himself, and he's offering budgeting and consulting for their projects. So this is a concept that I've talked for years about, that GCs, if you want to get more contacts, you got to focus on architecture firms and development firms that are going to be doing repeats. Because what happens is, let's say the architecture firm, your client is not going to be the architect. It's going to be his client, which is the owner, right? The owner is the client. But how nice is it when you can team up with this architecture firm and they could recommend you, right? And if they're a good architecture firm, they're probably doing a lot of work. They probably are in the design for some, they're probably doing contract administration for some other ones. Contract administration, if you don't know, is basically you're the owner's representative for the client. That's what the architects do on their behalf. Sometimes there's an owner's rep. So the point is that the architect is a valuable person that can introduce you to the owner. So how do you do it? So Leo from Maverick Construction, he's been doing this successfully. He's offering design development where he's actually going in there and identifying issues in the plans, things that will become eventually change orders, and he's fixing all those, right? And not only that, he's preparing budgets throughout the process so that when the contract drawings come, he's the first one on the list. And oftentimes they just hand him the project. He doesn't even have to competitively bid. He just gets the project. So how do you do it? So step number 1 is you're gonna print a professional brochure on vinyl, just like this, right? You're gonna put all your company info. This is from one of my clients that I was so impressed. This guy does concrete restoration. He came by my office and he dropped it off, and he's a client of mine, and it's a vinyl. So like, it's not a cheap paper that you can't throw this away. Put your pictures, your designs, your resume, your background, and just go to these architecture firms and just drop it off. Hey, my name is Daniel. I'm with Builders. We're a general contractor and we're interested in working with you guys. So one of the things I like to do, especially when I'm meeting with a new architecture firm, this is what you tell them, is we can all actually do your design development estimates. So we can budget your projects, and I can actually help you find errors and issues in the design so that you can clear that up before it gets to the contract drawing stage, so that there's no issues later. And obviously in exchange for us having a first shot at the project. So you do this, you could charge for this, you could do this for free, however you want to do it, but you want to bring value ahead of time. So free value is the best because you're going to get more opportunities. But if you don't want to work for free, so offer this on a cost basis where you can come in, do their value engineering, do their consulting of the plans, things like that, because architects make a lot of mistakes and they recognize that. So if somebody, the builder, can actually come in and say, hey, let me proofread your drawings before they go out, and let me give you budgets, and if I can maintain this budget, just give me the contract and we're good. That's the idea behind it. Number 6, demonstrate your expertise through stories and your work history. In the small talk, you want to convey your experience, your knowledge, your expertise. You want to talk about the jobs you've done. You want to talk stories about things in the job site, because these are all subconscious communicators of your quality, all right? And you got to understand something, that when it comes to getting projects, the people that are going to hire you are taking a risk to hire you. So an owner takes the most risk because it's hardest to replace a GC if you're in the middle of construction. So they're going to be the most picky. So if you are able to convey and demonstrate that you know how to do their job, you've done it a million times, you have the expertise, and you're able to convey this in person, then you're already 80% of the way. Now, if you're a subcontractor, what you want to do is you want to spend a lot of time doing the in-person visits. When you're in conversation, you want to focus and you want to lead the conversations to things that will demonstrate that you are the less risky and the best option. You want to let them know you can finance the job easy. You want to let them know that you have a lot of crews. You want to let them know that your crews are trained and that they've done this before. You want to let them know of your technical expertise. For example, if you're in restaurant construction, you have to have more knowledge than the average contractor about gas lines, mechanical, electrical, plumbing, things like grease traps, right? These are all common in restaurant. Restaurants are going to have a lot of millwork, so you got to demonstrate that you're good at millwork, right? Good at finishes, things like that, good at building a bar, right? These are the things that they're going to want to see. If you're doing multifamily, they're going to look at production. They're going to look at your ability to knock out projects over and over, or the same unit over and over and over. They're going to look at, hey, if I give this contract to this guy, this is a multiple story building, which is a big contract. Are they going to be able to finance it? Are they going to have issues with that? You want to do this subtly. You don't want to do this like, hey, I'm the right guy for the job. You want to go shake some hands, talk about a couple stories of some job sites you've done. Like for example, if I'm going visiting some clients, and I've done this before, and I'm going, let's say I used to go with my boss and I'll meet some big company that does, I don't know, multifamily buildings. I might shake some hands and be like, hey John, how are you? My name is Daniel. This is Paulo. Nice to meet you. Just want to introduce ourselves. We were in the area. And then let's say they're like, hey, what type of jobs are you working on? Well, we're currently working on this restaurant and this restaurant and this building. But last year we did this building, this high rise and this, and I was the project manager for a 22-story building that we did in Las Olas 2 years ago. So, I mean, the guy asked me a question, so I'm subtly mentioning, I'm giving him a quick recap. He's going to know like, oh, this guy and this team, they know what they're doing. So if they're able to do a 22-story high rise, they might be able to do my little 2-story building. All right, boom. So that's already, you've already conveyed the message, and you can only do that in person. They might invite you to their office. You might talk in the lobby for 5 minutes, and that's it. And that opens the door for the next level of communication, which is repeat visits. Number 5, go above and beyond the call of duty whenever you can. A good friend of mine owns an $8 million a year painting company. They're a commercial company. And the other day I asked him, I'm like, how many clients do you have? He said, I have 10 repeat clients. And I said, how do you get these guys to give you work over and over? And then he was telling me that part of it is his knowledge and technical expertise. But he says, more importantly, once he's working with these guys, he goes above and beyond the call of duty. And he goes on and he tells me the story of one time how he was doing I think it was, if I remember the story correctly, he was doing a multi-story building, and the GC was behind schedule, and they had already the carpet guys scheduled for the next day, but they had just started him on painting. Towards the end of the day, they're like, hey, I need you to start painting the doors. And then they ended up running into an issue where he wasn't going to be able to finish that day because they didn't give him any notice. So long story short, he works with the GC. He says, don't worry about it. By 7 a.m., this will be done. The GC's like, all right, I trust you. So then him and his crews worked overnight to finish all the painting. And it turns out that the next day they were able to bring in and do the carpets and everything and get ahead of schedule. And guess what? That GC never forgot that. And he kept using him over and over and over. So you want to go above and beyond the call of duty, even when you don't have to. A lot of people are very selfish, like, oh, well, I'm not getting paid for this overtime. But guess what? That's why he's doing $8 million a year. And some people are not, because they're not willing to do that. Listen, the truth is that when you're in construction, you are going to go through trials and tribulations with your clients. And it's up to you to demonstrate your character, your faithfulness, your loyalty, your integrity when these things come up. And that's how you're going to build lifelong clients. I know contractors, these old school guys that are like 16, 17 years old, that they've been working with the same companies for like 30 years. Imagine how many millions and millions and millions of dollars over a 30-year period that is just from one revenue stream. Think about that. Number 4, use the prospect farming technique to identify the right clients. The overall goal here is that you want to filter your list and you want to only work with clients that are going to give you a lot of work. That's it. That's the key to this. Phase 1, you're going to go broad. You're going to bid for everybody and their mother. You're going to bid for every architecture firm, every GC, every developer. You're going to go real broad, right? You're not going to be picky. And then what's going to happen is very quickly, you're going to start noticing some clients that are giving you attention. They might even award you jobs very quickly. There's people that when you go visit them, they're going to be very welcoming, shake your hands. Hey, come to my office. Like, these are the guys that are giving you feedback. These are the guys that want to work with you, because ultimately, remember, what you want to do is you want to align with the right people. And phase 2, what's going to happen is you've just gone broad, right? And now some of these guys are going to start popping their heads out like their potentials. What you're going to want to do is put them on a temporary VIP list, right? These become your VIPs, but on a temporary basis. You're putting them like in a probation. You want to see what actually results from all the bids you do. You're going to bid like 10 to 20 jobs. So phase 3, you're going to bid about 10 to 20 jobs for these temporary VIP guys. And what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to bid back to back to back. Very important, back to back to back. You can't just bid like one today and then 3 months from now another job, because they're going to forget who you are. What you want to do is you want to have enough volume of activity in a very condensed period of time so they remember you and they know you. And when you're doing your follow-ups, it's like an aggressive type of thing. Very, very important that you do that. And then after you bid 10 to 20 jobs for them, you're going to ask yourself, 1, how many projects did they win? Or how many projects did they get all the way through construction approval, right, to start? And of those, how many did they give me? So for example, if you're a GC, not every project that an architect sends you, it doesn't always become a project. Sometimes they get canceled. It doesn't get through the plan review. Things happen. So you want to ask yourself, how many jobs does this architecture firm take it all the way through to the construction period, right? And if you're a subcontractor, if you're bidding for these GCs, they got to win the jobs to give them to you. So you got to ask yourself, how many jobs did these guys win, right? And of those jobs, how many did they give me? And that's going to start solidifying those relationships. And then in phase 4, you're going to decide who's going to become your permanent VIP. And what you're going to do is all these people that have been awarding you jobs, you're going to start saying like, all right, if this company sends in a job, stopping everything and I'm bidding these jobs, because you know that they're going to give you work. And that's how you're going to get 60% close rates with the companies that become your permanent VIPs. All right. And then what you're going to do is you're just going to cut out the losers, the people that aren't really giving you work, they're not profiting you, and you're going to replace them with new VIPs. And the goal is that you want 5 or 10 or 20, or over the course of years, you want 5 or 10 or 20 companies that you're just doing business over and over and over on a repeat basis with. Number 3, align only for the right clients. So we just talked about it a second ago, that if you want a 60% close rate, you have to do prospect farming. And number 3 is all about aligning with the right clients. So this is why, like, for example, I don't like residential work, because although you get money up front and the whole thing, you're dealing with a challenging homeowner sometimes. And number 2, they're not really going to lead to repeat business. So you want to align only with clients that are going to lead to repeat business. That's why I don't like out-of-towners. Out-of-towners, unless they're awarded the job, I don't really waste my time, because they're usually bidding with a very low success rate. So you don't want to waste time on guys like that. You want to focus on local companies that are going to give you repeat business, because it compounds. So the reason I say compounds is because, think about it. Imagine if this year you add 3 new clients that are giving you a few projects a year, let's say about $1 million a year, right? 3 new clients, that's $3 million this year. The next year you add another 3. That's $6 million. Then next year you add another 3, and then another 3. In 5 years, you're going to be doing $15 million a year with 15 clients, right? So think about that. 15 repeat clients, each paying you $1 million a year. That's $15 million. Think about that. That's the power of aligning with the right people. Number 2, we're almost there. Get behind enemy lines. So I've been talking about this, so I kind of briefed you on this, but we want to get behind enemy lines. So everything that we've done up to now, the recurring business and getting our foot in the door and the break-even method, is because everything revolves around getting to the decision makers. So think about this. Everything you do has to be that you want to pass that first barrier to get to the decision makers. And those decision makers are the ones that are going to sign your contracts. They're the ones that they're going to negotiate with you. Those are the guys that are going to give you repeat business. So remember, everything you do is about repeat business. So what you want to do is break-even method, get your foot in the door, build these relationships with these project managers, go to the job walkthroughs, pass by the job site, do the PR thing, shaking hands, because you want to become friends with these guys. Then once you're in, what's going to happen is now when you're prospecting or you're doing your follow-ups, you're skipping the estimator, you're skipping the office manager. You go straight to the project manager. Or if it's an architecture firm, there's usually like a construction manager or someone that's in charge of the construction activities or something like that. Those are the decision makers. Those are the ones that are going to recommend you to the clients. If you're a subcontractor, you want to focus on the project managers and the vice presidents and the senior project managers of the companies, because those are the guys that decide who gets the jobs. And number 1, drum roll please, get more leads. The number 1 thing you can do in your company is to get more leads. The more leads you have in the door, the more opportunities you're going to get, the more chances of getting lucky you are, the more business relationships you're going to build, and overall you're just going to get more. Another benefit is if you get more leads in the door, you have a lot of jobs to choose from. So you can literally cherry pick the best jobs. And what happens is the more proposals you submit, the more at-bats you're going to get. Even the best major league hitters are hitting a 200 average or a 300 average. So even if you're the best salesperson, you're not going to win 100% of your bids. But if you go at bat more often, boom, 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 you're going to have more chances of getting singles and home runs. So you just need to increase the output. So how do you get more leads? So to bid more jobs, we need more leads. So how do we do it? So the first thing you can do is you can use a lead platform. So these are platforms like Dodge, the Blue Book, ConstructConnect, and there's 100 other ones, but they all pretty much do the same thing. People, general contractors post their projects and they invite the subcontractors. And if you're an architect or you're the owner or the developer or property manager, a lot of them post projects too, looking for general contractors. So that's another way they do them. Now here's a word of caution. The lead platforms are very good, but I want to make sure you focus on local companies. So companies like Dodge and Blue Book, they tend to get a lot of out-of-towners because they don't have a big sub base. So they're using these platforms to find new subs, right? Or find new GCs. So the local companies are actually going to have their own sub list that they're going to reach out to. This is called a master bid list or a master vendor list. So option 2, use commercial construction databases. So you can use Google, you can use Procore Network. You can also use the platforms, but the directory part of it, like Dodge, Blue Book, ConstructConnect, they all have the actual directories of the companies that you can reach out to. And all what you do is you go onto the website, you put in, I need a general contractor in city, and then it pops up and you're gonna start seeing all of the potential general contractors, right? If you're a GC, you go to, like, for example, if you go to Procore Network, you go there and you put architects near, boom, and then all of a sudden, all these architecture firms that are in the Procore Network, for example, which Procore is a very big network, so it's a great directory, can I pass by your office? And you start building those relationships. The most powerful thing you can do in your company is get more leads. So by the way, if you need help getting leads or estimating your projects, or if you want training and consulting, I'm gonna put a link in the description below so you can set up a strategy session with us. And otherwise, if you wanna learn how to get leads, if you wanna learn how to blow up your lead system, get unlimited leads so you can cherry pick and you can bid a bunch of more jobs, I'm gonna teach you how to do that in this video right over here. All right, so click that video and let me teach you how to get more leads.